A month later, Bernie Madoff, subprime loans, the Great Recession of 2008 happened. And just like that, over $3 million that I put in to prepare for this project, between the money I put in and the investors and family money, was gone. This was about a year after the divorce started and the coaching started, because it took about a year to get through the divorce, get through the coaching at the same time. And God's got a sense of humor. He kind of put these two things in the same place at the same time. Because he's telling me, you're down? Good. You want to get better for other people? Get better for yourself first. When one loves more than the other, the one that loves less has the control in the relationship, because the one that loves more is trying to get them to love them as much. And talking about the 12 steps, I consider myself a recovering people pleaser.
Are you in need of a change? The simple answer is, who doesn't? Now, does everything in your life need to change? Maybe, maybe not. So if your life needs something and you don't know where to start, here are a few key questions I want you to consider. First, is your mindset one of lack or is it of abundance? Are you feeling frustrated by the lack of progress in your life or your business? Do you have trouble sticking with your goals? These are just a few of the ways that we can find ourselves in need of some much needed change. And today, we're going to get into a roadmap for how to move you from being stuck to living life at the fullest. But until we get into that, I just want to remind you that if you're interested in raising your standards as a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, then I encourage you to participate in our Band of Brothers group mentorship program. We're a group of ordinary guys working towards living extraordinary lives. And you can find us at the Awakened Man Training Academy at members.theawakenedman.net. And with that, let's get on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet, the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of the Awakened Man movement and your host, Alan DeMonso. Would you classify yourself as a worrier or a warrior? I don't know too many folks that don't worry from time to time. And I guess the real question is, how much time do we spend in that worry mindset? The goal, of course, is to move through that phase as quickly as possible. And today, my guest is about to show you just how to do that. So allow me to introduce my guest. Martin Salama is known as the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. He specializes in helping people frustrated in their life quickly shift their mindset to uncover their greatness through the Warrior Life Code coaching program so they can live their true potential and enjoy life. Welcome to the show, Martin. How are things?
Things are wonderful, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing great here. Been working hard all day and really looking forward to get an opportunity to have our talk today. So just really grateful having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here.
Right on. Well, yeah, as you know, Martin, in our work here at the Awakened Man, we always talk about everyone being on a hero's quest. It's that journey in our lives. And so I wanted to ask you to tell us about a particular time in your life when you were challenged, maybe you felt lost and things had to change. What did you do and how did that experience shape you into the man you are today and the work you're doing?
Okay. Well, I think that's a pretty easy answer for me. I gave a lot of thought to this over the last 10, 12, 15 years, actually. And it's easy for me to find that moment. And it was in 2008. My wife and I were working on a project for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar tennis and health club in New Jersey by the Jersey Shore. And it took us 5 years because from concept to finding the space, to negotiating it, to then doing feasibility studies, getting the architect involved, the engineer, going to the city and the state and getting all the approvals. So if it would have happened in 2006 or 2007 and we went to the bank, they would have thrown the money at us. That's the way things were in that time of year, in that time of the world.
Yeah.
But fate would have it, it was the summer of 2008. And we went to the bank and yeah, we're not lending right now. I'm like, what are you talking about? We've been doing this for 5 years. I'm like, well, things are starting to slow down now. Slow down. Okay. A month later, Bernie Madoff, subprime loans, the Great Recession of 2008 happened. And just like that, over $3 million that I put in to prepare for this project, between the money I put in and the investors and family money, was gone. And I was devastated. Like, what the heck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And it took me about a year to pick myself up off the ground and say, okay, enough of this pity party. What do I want to do next? And I looked at my life, and by this time I was close to 50. And I was like, you know what? I never really loved being a businessman, an entrepreneur. There were many highs, many lows. So I thought about it, and I thought about my life and the other things I've done. And one of the things I did was I was always the leader in my community and community outreach programs, organizations, fundraisers, and the like. And I realized I was the leader because that's the way I grew up. My parents were leaders in the organizations as well. So it was a DNA thing. I saw what they did. I followed them. But for me, a lot of that also had to do with a little bit of my life of being a people pleaser. And the part that comes in there is that as a people pleaser, you love the recognition. You love when someone says, you did a great job because you've pleased the people, right? So here I am thinking about what I want to do. But the other thing I realized was I loved when people would get involved when they thought they didn't know how to do it. Oh, I don't have what you have. I can't do it. Just give me a few hours. I'll show you what you can do. Just help out a little bit.
Yeah.
And watching them do that, and it made me realize that I was a life coach without being a life coach. So I said, you know what? This sounds like a good idea. So I started researching coaching programs, and I found one. I said, okay, great. Starts in a few months from now. That's what I'm going to start working towards. About 2 months before we started, it was my 24th wedding anniversary. My wife says, I'm done. I want a divorce.
Oh.
I'm like, to be honest, I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But I would say, I don't want to get divorced. I don't want to get divorced. And the law of attraction was hearing divorce. All right. And I wasn't doing the things that I need to do to keep it going. We were going to therapists. We were doing the couples therapy and all of that. But either I wasn't bought in or she wasn't bought in. I'm not going to look to blame anybody here. Right. But it happened. And I was like, oh, great. Now what? How many more things can happen to me? And I decided I'm still going to go through with life coaching. And that first weekend, they said, before you come, read a couple of books. Here's a list of books to read. And one of them was a book by Don Miguel Ruiz. It was called The Four Agreements. And when I read the second agreement, I was like, whoa. The second agreement, for those who don't know, is don't take anything personally. And for me, don't take anything personally. It was as if somebody had told me something. It was like a secret. But it was a secret that the world had been telling me my entire life. But until that minute, I just wasn't ready to hear it. You know the saying, the master will appear when the student is ready.
Yes.
So I went into that first weekend of coaching, and they said to me, you don't have to be who you think you have to be. Who you've been for the last X amount of years. And I looked at myself and I said, I've always taken things personally. And that's when I started to unpack my things of being a people pleaser and the things that came with it, the need for recognition, the short temper that comes with it. Because why do I have a short temper? Because I'm a control freak and I take everything personally. So it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, let me start by one simple thing. I'm going to take care of myself first, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else. And that started the ball rolling down the right way.
Yeah, well, that's outstanding, Martin. And just to think about, getting through and having the wherewithal to survive the 2008 crash, and having spent all of that time, money, and energy, and looking for. And I can only imagine that, as you're saying, as being a people pleaser, that must have been so devastating. And then to start to work and rebuild and have the second piece that you revealed to us today with the marriage ending and having to then overcome that. And so you started to do, and you were getting involved with, with life coaching and becoming a coach, and that's what you do today. And so at some point though, you decided that you need to put some sort of framework around it. And I thought we could spend a little bit of time about that framework. And you call it the Warriors Life Code, now L.I.F.E. And I just thought if you could talk to us about how you created it, why you created it, and what it's all about.
Absolutely. But it's always important to give the background.
You bet.
So that you understand where the person came from. Right. And it's really for the audience to say, you're not alone. There might be parts of my story that resonate with somebody out there. And they're going, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Right. And that's really why we talk this way. So here I am. I'm finishing college. It kind of felt like college. I was finishing coach
College
training.
of life.
Right. I'm finishing coach training. And I'm thinking, what do I want to do? What kind of coach do I want to be?
Yeah.
And I was on a Facebook call, about Facebook, how to utilize Facebook in your coaching. And the leader of the call said, you got to go on there and clean everything up. Make sure you don't have any stupid memes or whatever. And make sure all your information is updated. So I looked, it still had me as married. So I switched it to divorced. Within a day, I got a message from somebody I know for the last 40 years. Hey, Martin, it was a woman. Now that you're divorced, are you ready to start dating? I'm like, Kelly, you're married. She goes, no, I'm your matchmaker. I'm like, what? So we come from a small Jewish community that everybody knows everybody. So I started telling her, what are we going to do? Play Fiddler on the Roof here? Should I start singing Matchmaker, Matchmaker? So she says, let's talk. So we spoke for about an hour. And when we finished, she said, oh my God, I've never met a man who's just come out of divorce who is so well put together like you. I was like, wow. This was about a year after the divorce started and the coaching started, because it took about a year to get through the divorce, get through the coaching at the same time. And God's got a sense of humor. He kind of put these two things in the same place at the same time. Because he's telling me, you're down? Good. You want to get better for other people? Get better for yourself first. So I was like, okay, so let's talk. So I said, okay, great. So why is that so great? So what should I do? Start dating? She goes, even better. You should coach people around divorce. So I first was a divorce recovery coach because I understood what the pains were that they were going through. So I did that for a few years. And I was also doing a dead-end job. And it was tough for me to find a job. The economy was pretty crappy and people didn't want to pay anybody. In my small community, I was of the affluent people. So like, oh, this guy's going to learn my business and then he's going to go turn around and steal and become my competitor, which was not even the case. So I finally got a dead-end job because a friend of mine convinced his bosses to give me a break. So I was doing this dead-end job. I left the house at 7. I got home at 7. And I tried to do my coaching whenever I could.
Yeah.
So 2-3 years into this, I look in the mirror. I'm the heaviest I ever was in my life. Because even though I was coaching other people, I wasn't getting coached. Let me tell you guys, all coaches need coaches. Just like everybody else that needs coaches, we need coaches too. And the reason I wasn't getting coached was because I, quote unquote, couldn't afford it. But you know what? It's the old adage. If I think of it as a cost, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Instead, you got to think of it as an investment in my life. So I started doing that. And a friend of mine was talking on Facebook that he had this video series that you can work out for 30 minutes from home. I'm like, okay, I could figure that out. I could wake up a little earlier and work out and then go to work. So I ordered the videos. I started doing them. And that first few weeks were killer. I was heaving like you can't imagine. And I was following the moderated part of the videos. You're nodding your head like I've been there.
I'm in there right now. I totally can relate.
Well, after 9 months, I lost 65 pounds.
Nice.
But what else happened was because I was eating better and working out, I was reading better. I was watching better things. I was letting myself get coached in other areas. And I switched my mindset from self-conscious to self-aware. All right. As a matter of fact, we talked about the warrior to warrior. I just came out with a card deck, which I'll show you here, of things that I talk about in my course.
Nice.
Right. And one of them is talking about the difference between self-conscious and self-aware. But I'll tell you, self-conscious comes from negative. You're trying to please everybody else. It's an outward thing, and you react instead of respond. Self-awareness is more of peace of mind, contentment, and you're doing things for yourself, not for others. And you learn to respond instead of react because everything's just happening. So that started happening. And one day I was doing something crazy. For me, it's crazy because I'm ADHD. Okay. I was meditating.
Nice.
Could you imagine an ADHD guy meditating? Like, okay, when is this going to be over? That was my mind. But I put it down on my calendar. Every few days I was going to meditate with the guy, 10 minutes in my headspace, whatever.
Yeah.
So I did that. And one day I had this download of information that I loved what was going on in my life. And I wanted to show other people how they could enjoy their lives. And I finished and I wrote for 2 hours this whole idea of what it was. It was like a brain, God just dumped it in my brain in one fell swoop. And I wrote it, and I got the acronym LIFE, live incredibly full every day. So that became my mantra. I was going to look at every day. I was going to be grateful for what I had, not complain about the things I didn't have, understand that they were all in my control. And I started doing this. And then in the same time, I also started to date. You know why? Because I had a better sense of self.
Yeah.
Better self-love. And that was something that was missing. And guys, I know we're talking to men out there.
Yep.
It's okay to talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to recognize that sometimes you feel things. We're not in the 70s and 80s. You don't got to be macho anymore. You don't got to hold it in. You can ask for help. It's all right. Yes. And you know what? It shows your authenticity when you do that. So this became the basis of my coaching, and I started building it. And I was dating. And my friend Kelly would call me up. I got someone for you. I got someone. And one day she called me up. She goes, I got this lady, this girl. You must take her out. We're talking about it. Okay, fine. I'll take her out. We go out on a date. And now what I'm doing on these dates is I'm interviewing these women about their values because I learned about values in life coaching. Right? They don't know they're being interviewed. But one of the things I learned was, I wish I knew this 25 years earlier because I probably would not have married my wife. Now, I have to say, I had very many good years. I have 4 beautiful children, 8 grandchildren, thank God. Everything's wonderful. But if I understood it, I would have recognized we were in a codependent relationship.
There you go.
And that our values were just never aligned. Right? Yeah. But we have a great relationship now, my ex and I. It took a while for that to happen, but we have a great relationship. So I'm dating this woman, and she's hitting all of the values I'm looking for. I'm like, this is wild. I go out again. They keep going. After a month, I said, I got to tell you something. And I don't need to hear it back, but I got to tell you, I'm falling in love with you because I love what I see in you. And I love that you see me exactly as I am and you're not trying to change me. About 2 weeks later, she told me she loved me too. And we got married 2 years later.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Which is almost 5 years ago.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Boy, it's such great nuggets there that you just dropped there, Martin. I just love that. I really like when you talked about moving from self-conscious to self-awareness and how easy it is that we get stuck in that one side, right? And that's why, we talked about in the intro here about being in that almost, it's like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And we get caught in there because we're listening to these programs and these stories. And then we find the validation externally. A lot of us men, and I'm a people pleaser as well. And so always looking for that external validation. And so when you can start to move over and shift to that self-awareness and recognize, the programs start to have less and less effect. And I think that was really cool. I like that. And I love the acronym for, live incredibly full every day for your program. That's super. And just think about it, even for any of us that listen to this, if you were to go back and do a values assessment or have a values conversation in your current relationship and see where there are some gaps, because there are probably some gaps, you probably get a great awareness within the relationship of how to better understand. Maybe it ends up in a divorce, but doesn't necessarily have to. It's all everyone has in a different situation. But
and if you're both willing to work on what's going on.
Yeah, you got to have both of them. Like, everyone's got to be willing to participate and jump in the game, right? And so I think what you're saying here just makes so much sense for guys that, if we're really conscious now and we stay in the self-aware aspect, life can be so much easier.
Yeah, it can be. So now I want to explain to you where the warrior came from.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now I'm putting this program together for a few years, trying to figure out how to put it all together, because I'm utilizing the clients I'm having and figuring out what's working, okay, and what's not working, because it's trial and error. You throw something out there, they go, it's not resonating with me, but this is, and that is. Okay, great. So now it's 2020. Something crazy happens in 2020. All right. And we all think it's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
All right. Have you ever been to New York City?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And what's the traffic like there?
Wow. That is incredible.
Right. So imagine it's May 2020. Okay. We're still shut down, but you can go out a little bit here and there if you're staying isolated. So one Sunday it's raining, and my wife and I and her 3 kids are like bored out of our skulls. We're like, let's drive to the city. We drive to the city and we drive straight up 6th Avenue without missing a traffic light. Because we're going the speed limit, and the lights are timed so that if you're going the speed limit, you can hit every light. You try doing that ever in New York City, it doesn't happen.
You're lucky to get through 2.
Exactly. Now we turn around, we come down 5th Avenue, past Museum Mile, same thing. The kids are stopping. We're able to stop right in front of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Natural History. The kids can take pictures, they can hang out, and we keep driving. And I turn to my wife and go, what's everybody worried about? I'm like, or better yet, why are we not worried? And I realized at that moment, the 10, 12 years from 2008 to 2020, the crash, the divorce, the weight change, the mind shift had all prepared me for anything that would come up in life, even COVID. So I realized this, and I said, you know what? People need to hear this. I got onto Facebook. I said, guys, I get it. I know why you're worried. So let me show you how to go from being worried to being a warrior. Because to me, a warrior, besides the guy in the knight in shining armor that's willing to take on anything at any time, he's also somebody that's come through adversity, and at the end of it is stronger from what they learned from it. So that's where the Warriors Life Code came from.
That is awesome. And because of that transformation, it gave you an opportunity really to hone in and really put together a program that makes sense for everybody, right? And I love the idea of going from warrior to warrior, because so many times in our life, as I said earlier, about, we spend time, it's pretty difficult to not have some worry in our lives. At least I'm still working on that myself. So
we all do.
How much time do we spend there, and do we have the self-awareness?
Right. So you know what? I look at a difference. There's a difference between worried and concerned.
Yes.
Right? Worried is you're Chicken Little running around saying the sky is falling and hoping that somebody's going to do something about it. Concerned is you recognize that things are not right, but you set out to figure out how to fix them.
Yes.
So are you going to be worried, or are you going to be concerned when those things come up?
That's right. Being concerned means we have a plan. We have something that we can to move forward to, and we're not staying stuck in the mud. So
and the plan might not come right away.
No.
But if you go with, I'm worried and who's going to help me, then you're saying I'm a victim.
Yeah.
If you want to control your future, you got to do something about it, or else the future will control you.
Yeah. Well, I think what's coming to me, the phrase that's coming to me, it's about that fear to faith journey, right? It's about that when we start to make that journey, however that looks for us, then we start to reclaim that personal power for ourselves, and we can start to take action in ways that we wouldn't have. And you're absolutely right. The whole plan doesn't have to be laid out in front of us. It's about one step. What's the one thing I could do today that allows me to move forward in the challenge or the change that I'm being faced with?
Right. And, I have a part of my program that addresses that for people. And it's touching on the law of attraction. Okay. Because people think they understand the law of attraction. Oh, I ask for what I want and it comes to me. If only. Right. So if you say that that's the foundation of it, what else do you got to do? So I came up with a program, and this I learned from some other people, and I've put it together. Most of what I've got, and most of what anybody out there has got, is just taking what other people have done and making it work for you and for others with your words and your thoughts. Right. So I want to be clear about that. Not too many people invent the wheel. Most people reinvent the wheel. So I call it the cycle of A's. Okay. And it's a card in my deck. It's actually a bunch of cards in my deck because I break down each one of the A's. But here it is, just so you can see that. You see the cycle on there on the bottom?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you see the first one says ask. Ask the universe for what you want. Okay? Ask him what you want. But that's not enough. Then you got to start acting. You got to do the work to get it. It's not I Dream of Genie. I smack, the people who I Dream of Genie was? It's not like you snap your fingers and there it is. It's not Bewitched. All right? There's more to it than that. It's magic, but it's magic you create within yourself. So number 2 is you start doing the work. You act. And then here comes number 3, which is why I brought it up from what you were just talking about. You have a plan. You start doing the work, right? But if you get fixated on the results, that's attitude. You have to have an attitude of, I'm detached emotionally from the results. Because if something bad happens, it's not really bad. It's the universe telling you need to make a course correction. And if you take it that way and saying, why is this happening to me? No, it's happening for me. Whereas I was just talking to somebody recently, I heard this great thing. It's happening through me. I love that. Somebody said it. I don't remember who it is, but whoever it was, that's a great line.
Yeah. I love that. I was thinking when you were going to say the last A there, an attitude, and I was the other word that came to me was allow. Right, it's kind of the same idea, right?
Same idea.
Just it's about detaching from that whole piece and just allowing it to be whatever it is. And I think and especially for guys that we just like to have so much control over things. That are we willing to just I love those 3. Just ask, take some action. And just have the self-awareness of the right attitude, just to detach, because guess what? Maybe God has something better in mind for you that we can't see yet.
Exactly. And you know what? I'm glad you said that because, for people who've gone through the 12-step programs, there's one that says surrender to God. Right. Now, to me, when I heard surrender as I was growing up, the word surrender to me was, you're going to jail. Surrender. Give up. But in this text, it's the same thing as allow. Allow God's plan to come out.
Absolutely.
Right? Surrender to God's will. But that doesn't mean, look, there's a joke out there. A guy is floating in the ocean. His boat blew up and he's floating on a piece of wood. God, please, please save me. All of a sudden, a boat comes by. Come on, we'll save you. No, God's going to do it for me. Then a helicopter comes by. We're here to save you. No, God's going to save me. And then another whatever comes by. And he dies.
Yeah.
And he goes up to heaven and he says, God, why didn't you save me? Because I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. I kept sending you signs. You got to get on.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do. You got to watch for the opportunities instead of looking for the problems.
Absolutely. Hearing that story, that reminds me of like about 25 plus years ago when I was going through my life changing event, my divorce. My current wife that I had met, she had a set of tapes by Jack Canfield called Self-Esteem and Peak Performance. And I got to tell you, Martin, I wore those things out, right? They were cassette tapes. So we're talking about I Dream of Genie and all that cassette tapes, and so like wore them out so that when you took it out of the player, that the tape would stay behind, half of it would stay behind. Right. But the one thing that he always said was that the universe rewards action. That always stuck for me, 25 plus, maybe 30 years ago, the universe rewards action. And
exactly right.
So true, right? We sit there and we again, it's that warrior aspect of it. But when we participate in our life, when we get into it, and then, that's really what we're talking about today, is about taking purposeful action and being positively involved in our lives. Things happen for us that beyond our wildest imagination.
Right. And when you're in that cycle of A's, which becomes a perpetual motion thing, one thing will happen and you go, oh, that's a coincidence. It's starting to happen. Don't count it as a one-off. Yeah. Celebrate it and say, wow, this is great. Maybe if I do more will happen.
Yeah.
But keep that attitude of, it doesn't matter because it's part of the journey. And if you do stumble, it's part for you to understand why you stumbled and how to get up and keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Now, listen, you've learned a ton of stuff, right? You've done all this work, you're doing your coaching program. Now you're working with folks. Tell me, what is the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through this part of the journey now?
I think the biggest thing I learned, and this has happened over the last 5 or 6 years, is that I've eliminated the word I can't from my vocabulary. Now, I can't say 100% because I just used it just there, but I'd say that am I not plus 95% of the time when someone gives me an opportunity or someone brings something to me or I'm thinking about something, the I can't, that self-doubt, that idea of making me give up doesn't happen so easily.
What a great transformation as well, right? Because that's still, as young in my coaching practice as well, and getting started and working through this, there's still in those early days some of that self-doubt, right? And any of us that's listening to this podcast, that you may be involved in and maybe thinking about a new adventure, and you're into it, and you've got some self-doubt, or you're thinking you're in your adventure and you're thinking about making it bigger or expanding it or shifting it, whatever, and that I can't can be so devastating. And to be able to come back to, like your 3 A's, I just think that is just so profound. How are you finding this work now? I'm going to make a guess here that you do probably a lot of individual work with folks, but how would this work impact relationships and couples?
That's a great question. And one of the things I learned early on, especially in relationships, is that the worst thing that you can do is tell the other person, watch what I'm going to do. Or, you see, I'm trying to do this, because that defeats everything you're doing. So imagine if you've started taking on these things, and there's things in here about switching back to conversations from confrontations. Now, I don't really call it that in here, but that's basically what you're doing. You're stuck in so many confrontations and all types of relationships because you're holding things in. You're not holding things in the right way, and you're exploding. And the conversations quickly turn to confrontations, and people don't even want to talk to you because they're expecting to go into a confrontation. So it's all part of this thing here about understanding that you got to go through things and not proclaim to the world, see who I'm going to become. They don't care. They want to see the actions. They don't want to hear the words. So if you start doing things, for example, let's say it's a relational thing. Yeah. You start by saying to yourself, I'm going to listen more to what my wife's saying. And I'm going to be responsive instead of reactive. And if she reacts, I'm still not going to react. Because then she'll start to see the difference. And as you're conditioning yourself, and as long as you don't tell her what's going on or the other person, you're conditioning them as well. And I can tell you a story about that with me and my ex-wife.
Yeah.
So it was early in our divorce proceedings. And she would call me up, and I was already going through life coaching. So I was becoming more self-aware. I wasn't there yet, but I was also starting to see things that I hadn't noticed before. And she would say to me, call me up, and she'd say, I don't want to fight, but, and in my head, she just pushed the button. To me, that meant ding, ding, ding. Let's get ready to rumble. Not physically, thank God.
Yeah.
But that meant, okay, whatever she's going to say, I'm going to have to react to it. And then she would turn around at the end of it and say, I told you I didn't want to fight. Okay. Now, whether she did it consciously, subconsciously, I don't know. I don't care. It was enough that it got me going. So once I recognized, like, you know what? She says that a lot. So the next time, I still fought. But the time after that, I started thinking about it and looking back as to what I did and why I did it. And was I taking things personally? Don Miguel Ruiz, second agreement. Right? Yeah. So I started thinking about it and I said, okay, click. And I hung up on her. She called me back. She goes, what happened? Why'd you hang up on me? I said, well, you said you didn't want to fight. So I didn't want to fight. She goes, but there's something I wanted to tell you. I said, okay, so tell me, but don't tell me that you're looking not to fight. And I just left it at that. Eventually, that sentence disappeared because I disconnected the wires to the button.
Yes.
I conditioned myself while conditioning her. Now, did we never fight again? I wish. But over the years, the fighting, whenever it does happen, it's not about me and her. It's about the issue.
Right.
I'm very happy to say she got married too. She's off on her own with her husband. I've got my wife, and we live happily ever after. But we still have kids. One of them has got some issues that we work through. And she, sometimes, you know, as a kid, she tries to separate us, you know, one corner, the other corner.
Yeah.
But we have enough of a communication that we know we got to be careful with that.
You're right. Well, it's all about growth, right? And that's really what you've been telling us, how you've been leading on this journey about growing and that it's a constant evolution. You know, the other thing we briefly mentioned a little bit about 12-step programs. The other thing they always say, it's always progress over perfection.
There's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah, I just love that idea about it. And I think, you know, when we're always looking for progress, it means that we're doing something and we're moving forward. And that to me is the goal of life, is to keep expanding our fullness.
Yeah, you can only get a perfect score on a test, right? You can't really get a perfect score in life. There's always something more that's got to go further. And that was part of the problem in my relationship. And it was me perceiving that she always wanted everything to be perfect. She wanted me to be perfect. Now, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I'm not here to lay any blame on her. I'm just saying these were my perceptions coming out of it. So, and I used to say, I'm not perfect and I can't be perfect.
Yes.
But it didn't resonate with her. Didn't mean anything. So going back now, and one of the things I used to say to her is, she'd say, I love you. I'd say, I love you more. And you know what? It was true. Because, and this is something I wrote a book on recovering from divorce. And I talk about this in relationships. When one loves more than the other, the one that loves less has the control in the relationship. Because the one that loves more is trying to get them to love them as much. So if they're really tuned into it, the one that loves less, they're the takers in a relationship. And another book from Don Miguel Ruiz, The Mastery of Love, talks about every type of relationship you have should be 50-50. And that doesn't mean don't give 100%. That means you both should be giving 100% to it.
Yes.
You know, and if somebody's giving 70 and the other one's giving 30, that's not a good relationship. Because you're giving and they're taking.
That's so profound. I've never heard it put like that. When you said that, the one who loves less is in control of the relationship. If I heard you correctly, and it makes so much sense because, again, coming back from that people pleasing aspect as well, especially if you couple that with being a people pleaser. My goodness, you're in that state of always looking for it, and the other one does have that control. And so when it goes back to your work with the self-awareness, it just makes more sense, right?
Right. And talking about the 12 steps, I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. Because you know what? There's probably times that I'll slip.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean I'm always going to be a people pleaser. It means let me recognize what I did and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin, I just love the work that you're doing here and the conversation we're having. But we've spoken about quite a few things today. But maybe there's something that we haven't had a chance to touch on. What would be the one thing you'd want our listeners to take away from us today?
Let me think about that. I would say that is take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Right? Because the less you take care of yourself, the less valuable you can be for other people.
Isn't that the truth? Love that. Just love it.
If you want to give value, it's not about the value. It's not about the cost. It's about the value you're going to give.
Love it. Love it.
No one just came out of the air. So.
That was perfect. Geez, I just want to say thank you so much, Martin, for spending time with me today. And I think we've laid some groundwork, some breadcrumbs for people to be able to get an understanding all about what your Warriors L.I.F.E code is about. So if someone was interested in participating in this program and getting a hold of you, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Right. So it's something I learned on my way of going to do some podcasts here. And I came up with a website that makes it easy to pick up some gifts I have, to pick up the cards if you'd like, or my book, or even schedule a call with me. It's called connectwithmartin.com. And if you go there, there's a link to download a couple of pages on the cycle of A's.
Perfect. I'm going to make sure I put that in the show notes, Martin, so that people can get a hold of you. Once again, my friend, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show. What an outstanding conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.